But first, let me start by introducing Havre Cloud. Havre Cloud, which is the coordination and support actions, which is just backed up by the European Commission. And our goal is to help to grow the impact and the relevance of cloud computing, research and innovations, skills, policy-driven efforts. And in fact, we are supporting Europe is in having the role cloud computing alternative to the current hyperscalers in the world. However, what we have so far found out is that there is quite a skills gap while trying to for European companies try just to leverage their knowledge with their alternatives in other parts of the world. So Europe, in fact, needs digitally empowered citizens. What they say is a competent workforce and way more digital experts than today. This is directly from the European Commission. And they have started what they call the digital compass that they aim, among other things, to reach the target of 20 million employees, ICT specialists in Europe, with of course with gender convergence. Okay, so to help Europe or the Europe as a whole, and the European Commission in particular, half of the cloud, we are launching what we call it the Cloud Computing Skills Development in Europe webinar series. Okay, this is a series of 5 webinars. And the intention is to discuss and learn from different players in the market, industries, SMEs, startups, academia, online courses, platforms, individuals, about what is the European cloud computing skills gap and how to bridge them. Okay, this is this today is the first of the 5 webinar series that we will have in the next 3 weeks. The activity will focus on exploring the need of cloud computing skills, training needs and opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years. And of course, within Havre Cloud, we will just use all the feedback that we get from them just to make our recommendations, the policy recommendation to the European Commission. So there is today there's a good material for a start. I hope you like it, and there will be more to come in the next weeks. So please stay tuned for the next webinars, because they will also be quite interesting. So let me just start also with I wouldn't take much of your time, which is the agenda for today. We have started with the welcome introduction. Of course, maybe I forgot to tell that who I am. My name is Enrique Arizaga. I belong to Technalia Research and Innovation, more precisely in the Digital Transformation Unit. Our first speaker will be Bart. He's a Cloud Native Computing Foundation ambassador, and also the data on Kubernetes community. And he will talk also about CNCF and the cloud computing skills gap. He will finish around 10:30. He will also let us know a little bit what he has in mind, how we'll present it today, but I think this is really interesting. Later also we will have Maximiliano Pani, who is a strategic account executive from EMEA, from the Cloud Academy Incorporated. And he will talk about also a very interesting speech, which is bridging the IT skills gap with Cloud Academy. And we will also invite you all to stay out in the end, because our intention is that we will open a panel. Let's say at least 10 minutes. We will try to answer all your questions, and we will try to foster some discussions about how we all see what is the skills gap which is in Europe, and what are the, I mean, even from your individual perspective, what do you need just to get these skills that are needed currently for the cloud computing? More precisely, because there's a lot of opportunities there and in this community, and it seems that sometimes they are not fully covered by the current alternatives by universities and academia. So without any further delay, now that is 10:10, so we are on time. I will just invite my colleague, which is here. We have here Bart Farrell, okay? And so I will just stop sharing my screen, and I will invite Farrell directly to introduce himself also and start just giving us his very interesting speech. So thanks, Bart. The floor is yours. I will stop sharing.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Enrique, for the wonderful introduction. As he mentioned, my name is Bart Farrell. I'm originally from the United States, from Northern California, but I've been living in Spain for the last 10 years and working in tech for around the last 6 years. I'll drop my link to my LinkedIn profile if anybody wants to reach out. I'd be happy to talk further about the things we're discussing today. So you can have that information right here. And now I'll share my screen. So with that in mind, very good. So for today's presentation, it's going to be pretty short and sweet, just trying to stick to the practical stuff. As Enrique mentioned, obviously today we're focused on the skill gap. So I'll really try to focus on that. And to take that point even further, I also brought someone with me, one of the interns who's working in my community, who's also a university student. So you can hear directly from someone who's in our community about the skills that they're acquiring to help sort of, narrow that gap. Just real quick information about myself. I'm the head of community at the Data on Kubernetes community. I've been doing that for about 2 years now. I'm also a CNCF ambassador. If you're not familiar with the CNCF, and it's totally fine if you're not, the CNCF is a vendor neutral space where different companies can interact on open source projects, Kubernetes being the largest project that's there. Kubernetes is the second largest open source project in history after Linux. And there are lots of other projects that are there. And it's a place where people with no experience or lots of experience can get involved and contribute to different open source projects. I've been a CNCF ambassador for about a year now, and I've never written a line of code in my life. So as you can see, there are different ways that people can get involved through code contributions, through non-code contributions. Anyway, we'll get into that a little bit more later on. In terms of other professional background, also a soft skills trainer. So I've worked on the talent management side in different tech companies. So I've seen precisely the skills gap, all right, of trying to find cloud engineers, whether it's DevSecOps, things of that nature. So I've been on the talent management side, and through that, I have also developed different things related to soft skills training, whether it's public speaking, communication, personal branding, etc. I've also been involved in audiovisual production for the last 5 years. So that's another element that's incorporated in all this, as well as event organization, primarily related to tech events. Obviously, in the last 2 years, most of these have been online, but now starting to move back into offline events as well. In my academic background, I just thought this is worth mentioning is that I am not a programmer, right? I'm not a computer scientist by trade, as it were. I got my undergraduate degree at the University of California in Santa Barbara in religious studies. And then I got my master's degree at the University of London in Near and Middle Eastern studies, specializing in the Israel-Palestine conflict. So what I want to say is that there's a very big tent in terms of it's more about, your enthusiasm and interest in innovation and being around people from different countries with different ideas than necessarily just hard technical skills, right? In my personal case. So about the community, the Data on Kubernetes community, we got started about 2 years ago because of realizing the challenges and difficulties that database administrators, data engineers, et cetera, were having when it came to using their data inside Kubernetes, right? If you're not familiar with Kubernetes, don't worry. There's lots of information about that on the internet. You can find lots of videos, descriptions, et cetera. If you're familiar with containers, containerization of applications, we're talking about technologies like Docker. It might sound more familiar. If not, it's not a problem. But basically, this community got started, which is quite innovative because of seeing the mainstream approach of how data was being used in Kubernetes and proposing alternatives, saying, yes, it can be done this way. And the majority of folks seem to agree on that, but we also see different ways in which it can be done. And unlocking the potential of doing that through different use cases, whether it's about databases, whether it's about data storage, it could be about artificial intelligence, it could be about machine learning. So seeing these different ways in which things can be done, different companies decided to get together and create the community, all right? One of the things as well too about working with data, with anything really when we're talking about the cloud, is the cost factor, right? And particularly related to skills. Do I have employees? Do I have staff that are well trained enough to be able to use these technologies? And if not, how do I get those skills? Do I need to go to somewhere like Cloud Academy? Do I need to start reading books? Do I need to start, creating my own open source projects? What's the best way to narrow that gap? All right. The technical challenge, of course, as well. When things are being done for the first time, there's not such great documentation. It may be complicated to find a company or practitioner who has a very similar use case to yours. Things like this can make it difficult. And that's what community provides by bringing all these practitioners from all over the world to be able to share those experiences and therefore make it easier for new people or organizations that want to get involved in that. And then last but certainly not least, the talent problem. All right. It's no secret. If you go to job boards related to Kubernetes or cloud native engineers, you will see that there are far more openings than there are practitioners to fill those openings. We see companies that are raising 100, 200, 300 million dollars in funding rounds, and they simply cannot find the people to fill those positions. So I think we are all very much in agreement. There's a significant talent gap, and so it's our role to figure out how we can solve that. So why data on Kubernetes? Just real simple technical explanation, but this is very important for us because if not, we wouldn't have the credibility that we have. So one thing is, the first point is to have all the technologies in one stack, all right? So rather than having to spread out to different areas, it's just for simplicity to have everything all in the same place. The second one is taking advantage of built-in features that Kubernetes has, particularly in this case of replication and self-healing. When we say self-healing architecture, it means that Kubernetes will take care of itself, right? And just so everybody knows, Kubernetes is totally free. You don't have to pay anything for it. Obviously, it has its levels of complexity, but to download it, it doesn't cost anything to install it, et cetera. You'll see that cloud providers will have their own managed services on Kubernetes, whether through Amazon, whether through Microsoft, whether through Google Cloud Platform. There are different options there, but the strict open source version is what gives you freedom or allows you to avoid what we call vendor lock-in, right? Not just to be stuck with one. The third one is portability. Most people will tell you, do not touch your data, do not move your data. But in this particular case, the portability and flexibility that can be provided and guarantee safety and security for the data is what gives us this extra edge, all right? Fourth point being security, all right? The Kubernetes has presented various security challenges, enough that the National Security Administration in the United States released a document last year, a guide about how to harden Kubernetes clusters because of some of the security vulnerabilities that have been detected. And last but not least, cost, right? When we said cost, we're not just saying, in the sense of the bills that you have to pay, but rather the people that you will need in order to work with these technologies. While a lot of Kubernetes is based on automation, we have yet to reach a point where all these processes are being automated, right? As more and more people are participating in this open source project, and if you go to the Kubernetes Slack, you'll see that there are over 100,000 people that are in there. Maybe not all of them are actively contributing in the same way, but just so you get the idea, this is a project that has a lot of scope, right? It's very, very large. So like I said, the cost factor is more about people. Do I have enough engineers that are going to stay in my organization for enough time to help me develop all the things that I need to do? These are the challenges. And so by getting data on Kubernetes, some of these challenges are reduced for some of the reasons that we just mentioned, all right? Good. Regarding the community, what we say is we're bridging the gap between now and the future regarding building the next decade of data management, primarily through webinars, right? That's sort of our bread and butter, the backbone of our community, is that we generally do 2 webinars per week, right? So I have a webinar today, we have another one on Thursday. And so since we got started in July of 2020, we've done over 120 webinars, all right? And that means 120 different practitioners from all over the world, different companies with different approaches, different technologies. That gives us the diversity of knowledge. And all these webinars are free. They can be found on our YouTube channel. Through those webinars, we also have blogs, some which can be found on our website, others which can be found in publications like The New Stack or TechCrunch. We also did a research report where we interviewed 500 organizations to get their opinions and feedback about the challenges, the benefits, and opportunities of running data on Kubernetes. We knew that it wasn't enough just for us to say, oh, we think this is a great idea. You actually have to go out there and get feedback from people so that you really understand what their pain points are, the value that they see in all these technologies, and that gave us a lot more confidence about the work that we're doing. That research report is on our website. It will be repeated this year so we can compare and contrast the results. Open source projects, you'll hear more about this later, but we knew that if we're going to be doing this, we needed to have a project that we could be working on using the technologies that we're speaking about in the community to be able to show how it works, once again, in a vendor neutral environment, not trying to make money, but to see these technologies in action. You're going to hear a little bit more about that later on, all right? Our connection with the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, we are integrated as a community into their ecosystem. And obviously we're very much matched up with their mission, vision, values, code of conduct, et cetera. Another thing that's been a core focus since we got started, a lot of what's featured in our community would be considered deep tech by different folks with different perspectives. We've always argued that it's essential if we're going to be talking about these advanced technologies, if we can't help complete beginners get onboarded with them, then we're not doing our job correctly. So since the very beginning, we've very much had a focus on having resources also for beginners, so that it's not just exclusively focused on seasoned veterans who have 20 years of database experience. So with that in mind, we've had a Data on Kubernetes Students Day. We've had interns since last year in June. You'll be hearing from one of them soon. And this is a way for us to give back and also a way to better understand how well are we explaining these concepts, all right? Because if you can't explain it to an 18-year-old, how can you possibly explain it to your boss who maybe doesn't necessarily have a technical profile? This is also helping to start bridge this skills gap by creating we can say a group of young people that very much understand the mentality, that very much understand the technological reasons why we're advocating for this. It helps the organizations that are in our community to then have access to that kind of talent, but also to get feedback about how they're presenting things. We now have over 25 sponsors of our community, and each one is sort of approaching this challenge in a different way. But by being able to interact with young people, it gives a lot of value because young people will get questions out into the open that perhaps folks with more experience wouldn't necessarily realize in terms of their importance, right? Other things that you can see, just basic, vanity metrics. We've got 2,300 people on Slack, almost 4,000 on LinkedIn and Twitter. We've also characterized our community. Let's face it, learning cloud native technologies is not easy. So we try to make it as fun as possible through art and through music. In every single one of our webinars, we have an artist who creates a depiction of what's being spoken about. You can see all this on Twitter and LinkedIn. And then we also generally, we try to incorporate music. So you'll see rap videos. What is the connection between rap and cloud native technologies? And face value may not seem like there's a lot, but something that I started doing from the very beginning was writing rap songs to honor our guests and to be able to share this as a way of celebrating the stuff that they're doing. Very often these technologies are, we can say, kind of out of sight, out of mind, not very tangible, relatively complex. So by incorporating these different elements of art and music, it's a way to bring these things to life and create a more, we could say, a positive connection related to enjoyment and having a good time, all right? So like I said, our community is also very much characterized by the wonderful support that we get from our sponsors, not just in a financial sense, but in terms of know-how, in terms of connections, in terms of getting these questions out there. So we now have a governing board, we have different working groups, so they can participate and get the value that they're looking for out of our community. Now, what are cloud native skills? So some basic things here that I mentioned previously, and you'll hear more about this in a second. So avoiding vendor lock-in, right? Meaning I do not want to be stuck just with one service provider, right? This is a mentality change that previously wasn't necessarily there so much, but with cloud has very much opened it up, all right? Other things we would see, SRE and DVR principles. So SRE are site reliability engineers, right? Engineers that make sure that your websites don't crash, right? Make sure that when you're shopping, when you're buying a flight or reserving a hotel, that things don't go wrong. Database reliability engineers that are making sure that databases are reliable, right? That they're structured well, that they're not going to have problems with backup and restore or disaster recovery, things of that nature. Other things related to cloud native skills, open source, all right? Open source is not something that everyone necessarily has experience with. But in communities such as ours, or more broadly in the CNCF, it's really easy to get involved, and you don't have to be a technical practitioner. Believe me, as I said previously, I'm not, and I have contributed writing blogs, making videos, doing interviews, participating in events. There are lots and lots and lots of ways to get involved, right? Strong beliefs loosely coupled. What do we say by that? Is that technologies are changing so quickly that while you might be very committed to something right now, you have to know that in 2 to 3 to 5 years time, those paradigms will probably change. So it's good to be fluid and flexible with these things so that you can be able to adapt and adjust accordingly as new changes come in. Pay it forward, all right? There is a very strong spirit of welcoming and generosity that's embedded in the CNCF that perhaps we don't find as much in other open source foundations, but it's something that we really take to heart, and we respect everyone's skill set, everyone's skill level. Beginners are a gift because, like I said, beginners get questions and ideas out into the open that experts may not necessarily consider, right? Due to assumptions. Another thing that's really strong for us as well too is learning in public. And why learning in public? Learning in public, when we say that, we mean if somebody watches a webinar, if somebody attends an event, if somebody is involved in an open source project, tell others about it, share what you know. When we actually have to put in writing the things that we're learning, it helps us to really make those concepts more concrete and increases the likelihood of us really absorbing them. It's also really good for personal branding. So for someone who's in one country, but wants to, tag a company or refer to an open source project where folks are in another part of the world, these things about the pandemic of increasingly living in a larger but closer society, these things are very positive. So something we very much encourage is learning in public, because it also makes it easier then for other folks from different people's networks to get involved. So like I said, that's also a very important point. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Abhijit, who's one of our stellar interns. And so if Abhijit, if you can turn on your camera and your microphone, we will turn it over to you. Let's see. Amrita, I might need your help on this.
I have asked him to unmute. Yes, he is
okay, good.
Unmuted.
Right,
I think I need some help with the video.
Can you, okay, if you can't use the video, we can hear you great, so you can just take it away from there. If not, Amrita, if you can help him to enable
it should work now. Does it?
Yes,
now. Yes.
Perfect. Good. Abhijit, welcome.
So yeah, hey everyone, I'm Abhijit. I'm from India, and I'm currently pursuing my freshman year in computer science, and I've contributed to the Data on Kubernetes project. I'm a really Forza enthusiast, and I love Formula One. For reference, I'll be adding my links in the chat. You can view them. So moving on, next slide, please. So when I came into this picture, the project itself and the community, I knew nothing about Kubernetes. I knew very little about open source, and I just knew the basics of computing, and pretty much you don't need to learn them, but I was lucky enough to know them. So I came into the community with the idea of learning, and Bart, in this specific context, Bart really helped me, and there are other experts too who help us learn. This goes for all the other colleague interns who I'm representing here. So I learned what Kubernetes is. I learned how is it applied in a very modern infrastructure. I learned how we can use data how we can store data in Kubernetes and how we can use them. So this is basically what I learned through this community. And in general, I learned a lot about open source, and this community has been very integral to it. So now coming to the second part, yeah, I understand it might be a very hard thing to manage university and open source, but the thing is, all of us have got 24 hours a day, and we have to find a way to manage it. So ideally in India, university goes for about 8 hours, and then I get some time where I can contribute to FOSS projects. My contributions include to DOK and other CNCF projects. I'm currently working on another project called Persia. It should be there on my GitHub. And Bart spoke about learning in public, right? So learning in public is where I write about events which I attend. For example, I'll be writing a blog post about this event. And this helps other members who are approaching the community to learn about these cool events where they can learn information, new skills, etc. So that's basically about the skills I've developed. There's a lot more which I can talk about, but due to time constraints, I've got to keep this short.
Very good. Perfect. Thank you very much, Abhijit. And Abhijit is just one of many contributors, young folks that are in university and are also getting experience. And we don't ask for much. I mean, even if someone can just attend, you know, a webinar and write about it, or and also ask our speakers questions, these things are super valuable. Speakers like to be asked questions, and this way, you know, other folks get to have their questions answered. So that being said, I think should be pretty clear what we're about. If you want to check us out, you can check out our website, dok.community. If you want to check out our Twitter, it's right there as well. CNCF is very easy to find as well too. Just take a look at all this stuff and keep it in mind as you approach this challenge of how can we narrow this skills gap. There are a lot of different ways to do it. And like I said, I think ours is very much focused on personal connections between people from different parts of the world. You can commit as much or as little time as you want. And really, it's a lot of it's about being enthusiastic and having a positive attitude. So that being said, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you a lot, Bart. It's been great. I mean, I also invite your colleague Abhijit just to stay just to the end for the panel discussion, because I guess that we'll have also questions for him, and we will appreciate it. He can also just provide his own point of view on the skill gaps. And also thank you for being just on time. So there's we just move directly to Max now, and he will introduce the cloud community. And so Max, the floor is yours now.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Bart, and thank you also, Abhijit, for the contribution. I will share my screen here. Let me know once you can see, and then I will jump straight into it.
Yes, it's working.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Amrita. Sorry. So I will start with a short introduction about myself. So my name is Massimiliano Pani. I'm Italian. I've been living abroad for the last 16 years, and I choose Spain as my second home, reaching you today from a beautiful sunny day in Mallorca. I joined Cloud Academy about 1 year ago, and I'm basically helping the company, to help other companies inside of Europe with the intention of bridging this skills gap. So the skills gap is something that really has a cost. It's something that's really present at the moment. There's no day really that passes by without seeing terms like skills gap, digital transformation in the news. It's literally out every day. It's been like this for the last 10 years at least. And the reason why I decided to join Cloud Academy is because I really like their vision. The vision was and still is to build a tool, to build a system that is the smartest, fastest, and easiest way to master modern job roles. Just for you to have a better understanding of what we do and how we do it, just to give you, a bit of background about the company. The company was actually founded in 2013 in the US. So on the papers is a American company, but it has an Italian heart. So the founders are Italians, and we received, different rounds of finance. We have a office in the US and also one in Europe. The office is based in Europe. In Europe, works a lot on the product. Cloud Academy is not just a platform, but it's not just a platform of content. This is probably the most important things for you to understand, but it has a strong technological component that really helps people, to understand their skills gap and move forward and bridge those skills gap. We have about 200 people working all over the world. We have people, in Oakland, in California, in Italy, in Milan, in Spain, like me. So it's really international company. We have seen a big growth at the moment. Our main customers are based in the US, but as we now, have more and more customers and more companies and even individuals reaching to us also in Europe and also in India. So this is important, we have two main models. So the one is the individual model. So any person can actually just go onto cloudacademy.com and buy a monthly or yearly subscription and start learning the cloud and technology. Our three main pillars are actually obviously cloud technology, software, and data. So you will find lots of courses and laboratories about these three topics. And now we have, and then we have obviously the enterprise platform, which is, I think, our best approach, our best intent to help companies really map the skills inside of the organizations, and then to offer also a way to attack and to bridge those skills gap. At the moment, we have about 800 enterprise active customers, and one thing that you can do, for example, today, you can literally go online onto cloudacademy.com, and you can see our content. Our library is open to the public, so you can search for the content there. You will be able to see the previews of the courses. So it's available to everybody as long as you have an internet connection, anytime, all year round. So if you want to study, literally, there are no excuses. You can do it now. You can do it whenever you want. We realized that before actually, especially for organizations, before assigning training plans, which administrators inside of Cloud Academy can do, and then I will show you more about that. Before actually assigning content with a due date, it's important to really understand the skills of the individual that are inside of an organization. So the assessment is is the very first step needed before actually developing the skills. And then obviously there's also a process of validation, and you will see more about that very soon. Companies can actually personalize our content, so you can take our content out of the box and change it. You can also upload your own content. We created a career path specific to job roles. At the moment, if you go online, you will see there are 5 job roles: cloud architect, data engineer, and more. And by the end of the year, you will see about 20 job roles. So we are actively bringing more and more value into the platform. You will see also that there is a special dashboard, both for the end users, but also for the companies to actually have a high-level overview over the skills. And for the companies and organization, we also offer the possibility we give a very close service, thanks to the customer success manager, that basically helps people in their in reaching their goals inside of the company. So I invite you to go online, check the library, and see if you find something that you would like to start on. The content starts from beginners. Also, you might be already in an intermediate level, and then obviously we have advanced. But if you are completely agreeing to this concept, to this technology, don't be put off by that. You can start literally with little by little, and then your skills can grow over time. Okay. Also, as you know, talking about IT technology and cloud, it's a very it's an industry with a lot of compliance. So we help you get certified. So we are vendor independent. So we don't release certification ourselves, but we can help you achieve the certifications that you might need for the job roles you're after. You can see also the main areas we are focused on. It's security, database, machine learning. And again, you will see lots of content of the most common public providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, Alibaba. And Bart before mentioned, obviously, Kubernetes. We also have, that's a very common scenario for us, Kubernetes, Docker, but also, as you can see here, Java and other names on this slide. And again, the job roles is something that really we are betting on, because we think that is the best way, for people to get close to this world. In the end, people, when they approach technology, they also do it on one side because they are passionate, but also because they are, trying to land a job. And in the end, companies look for a specific job role. So if you go online, on cloudacademy.com, you can actually start today and build your own learning path and your career path. So I will jump just into the method. It's important for you to understand the Cloud Academy is very practical. So it's not just about watching videos. All our courses are instructor-led. So you have videos, you have this transcript of the videos, but then you actually have to do something. You have actually to validate your skills. So it's very practical. And the more you validate your skills, the more you answer to quizzes, exams, and the more you go inside of the laboratories that we make available, the more obviously your skill will increase. So the first thing that we do, we assess the competency level of the users. The second, you can, as an individual user, you can choose how to develop your skills. If you are a company, you can assign specific training plans, and then there's always this validation piece that is really critical, to advance forward. So I would just jump into the platform so that you can actually see how this works. Can you still see my screen?
Yes. It's okay.
Okay, cool. So what you see now is the dashboard of the end user. One thing that you have to know is that if you buy a monthly or a yearly subscription as an individual user, you basically have access to the entire library, to the entire resources. So you can search. You have a search bar from here. You can pretty much invest all the time that you want and study whatever you want. From here, in this case, what you're seeing is the dashboard of the end user. This guy named Michael is also the administrator of this instance. So in this case, Michael, as an administrator, assigned, well, in this case, to himself, an assessment, which is a very important piece. And then he has some goals that the company has set for him. So you can see exactly what the company is asking for him. And also there are several training plans assigned. The end users can see exactly all the training that is taking. There's also a leaderboard here. So this is obviously a company profile. So in this case, Michael, as an employee, can see where he stands compared to the other employees. So this is the piece of gamification that we introduce inside of the platform, because we know that people like, to challenge themselves and also, help themselves. So, the other people can actually turn to Michael if Michael is, has a higher skill level. So that creates, a bit of cooperation as well inside of the companies. From here, you have full visibility over your activity, the learning path, the laboratories, all the activities that you perform. And also you can, since the library is huge, you can also bookmark some content and come back here for other explanations and, to refresh some concepts. One thing though, where you really can see the value of this solution is the individual profile. From here, you basically, as an individual user, and this works as well for the individual user that is not tied to a company. From here, you can actually see how you are moving your own talent forward. From here, you can see how your skills are actually improving over time. For example, if I want to see where I am when it comes to Microsoft Azure, I can, drill down on this concept. But And from here, I can see how my skills have increased over time when it comes to Microsoft Azure. But not only that, I can also see, how I stand in a specific subdomain of Azure, in this case, for security. So this is, the way we think. Our proposal, no, the way people are, they have accountability inside of their own profile. They can see exactly what's been asked to them. They can see, the due date, and they can see exactly how their skills are growing over time. If we switch on the other side to the administration, so this is, the enterprise model of Cloud Academy. What you're seeing here is the dashboard of the administrator. So for those of you in the call that maybe work for companies, or have a small team of about 10 people or above, this might be relevant, because from here you can actually create some teams for you. You can even assign managers to those teams, and then one thing that you can do is to assess those people. So by assessing them, you get an understanding, you get a first picture of those skills, and then you can basically assign training plans specific to the assessments. So this is an assessment that was completed for cloud computing for business professional. It was assigned to 5 people. Here you can see the skills. You can see exactly, the skills that were assessed, and then you can see also those skills gap, and you are presented with a map. So we talk a lot about skills gap, and here there's no more guessing. Everything is actually, on data, based on data, and based on the action performed by the users. From here, once you assess the teams, you can assign training plans, or if you are an individual user, you can go yourself and assign yourself also content. From here, you can create basically a training plan for somebody inside of the organization. For example, I will just choose a team, and please tell me then if I go over time, because I might lose track of time here. So for example, I could assign this specific training plan from here. And one thing that you can do, it's really helpful for to meet deadlines, is to use this toggle up and down. So you can assign this specific content and say, I want this team to study 3 hours a week. Or for example, if you have a specific project that starts in August, you might say, I want this team to be upskilled by the end of July 2022. So this will set automatically the commitment, the weekly commitment, to 2 hours and 25 minutes. So you can review, you can confirm, and basically you will see that a training plan has been assigned. We have companies and organizations that use this dashboard to plan for the entire year. So from here, basically, once one team finishes a training plan, they transition to a second training plan. From here, you can add training plans. And then what you will see from the intelligence side of the platform, you will see the analytics. You can see basically these are consumption metrics. You can see exactly where the people are investing the time. You are presented with all the list of the users. You can also drill down into each individual user. But for example, if you're an administrator, you can see exactly, for example, the exams that have been taken. And in this case, for example, if we take this certification preparation exam, you can see the score, and you are pretty sure that these people are ready with this score to sit for the official exam. So this also gives the possibility to control also that side of the equation, when it comes to certification, which we know it's important. I'm going to jump into the skills profile section, because this is really the core of what we do. We call Cloud Academy a skills intelligence platform. So everything starts, remember, from the assessment. And once people start investing more and more time inside of the platform, the administrator can see, well, basically the return on investment. They can see how the skills are growing. And again, you can remove all the guessing. From here, you can actually see, for example, if you have a project in AWS, you can see who are the best talents inside of the organization or the best team to assign to a project in AWS. And again, for example, you can drill down in a security concept. And again, you are presented with another leaderboard for the best users and the best teams for this specific project. Another thing that you can do that I was mentioning before is the fact that you can upload your own resources. This is also possible if you are interested. You might have already videos or material like PDF, whatever. We can support pretty much everything inside of the content engine. You can host your own content, and that will be available only for your organization. Okay. Now jumping on the back into the individual profile, just remember that again, you can set your own goals if you are, an individual subscriber. You can set your own goals. You can even study offline. We have an application for iOS and Android. And then once you go back online, your profile will update according to your activities. Last but not least, if you're looking for some specific content, the first thing you can do that I suggest doing is going online, search here, on our library. But then if you don't find something, we have a roadmap. So you find it on cloudacademy.com/platform/roadmap. And here you will see the content that we just released and the content that is coming soon. Okay. So, or if you have any specific requirement, I shared my contacts here in the chat. You can contact me. And the last thing that I wanted you to know is that Cloud Academy basically has 3 different labs, and this is the validation part. So the labs are basically instances that we offer integrated inside of the subscription, where you can actually go inside the instances of AWS, Azure, GCP to try out several scenarios. So we have the hands-on labs, like the one you see here. It's a guided lab, so you basically have to follow the instructions, and then you complete the laboratory. Then we have the lab challenges, where something is broken, you have to go inside yourself without any guidance, you have to fix it. And then we have the basically sandbox environment, where you can try pretty much everything that you want with some limitations. So, and obviously we also bridge the connection between Cloud Academy and the laboratories, meaning that if you complete something inside of the instance of AWS, for example, your skill profile will go up. If you do something correctly, if you complete the labs correctly, your skill profile will go up, otherwise will go down. So that really gives you those practitioner level skills that you need, to land those job roles that Bart was mentioning at the beginning of the webinar. I mean, there's so much I could talk about.
So I think that we are about time.
Yes, but I'm over time. Thank you.
Well, just a little bit. Yes, we just wanted to reserve the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just to probably I will ask. There has not been, I guess, any question in the chat, but probably I will open the floor just for people to start questioning both Barbara and Max. If not, then I will do it. I have a couple of questions for both of you, but let's see if I. Sorry, I have to. Sorry, it was my video off. So if if someone would like just to start with the questions, this is
we got one in the chat already, and Enrique,
okay.
I think you might want to take a look at that one.
Okay. Oh, that's Good morning. First of all, I would like just to thank you for the organization, which I find interesting. That's good. Thank you. From the introduction, I got the impression that Europe intends to develop and strengthen cloud competence at the regional level, differentiating itself from the main. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's in fact that was going to be one of my questions to both of you. Yes, how to, because also I also get why I was talking to you that it doesn't seem to be whenever we are offering just to the opportunity for training in cloud computing to the European citizens, we don't get much feedback from them. It looks like there is a lot of interest from other parts of the world, but I don't know why in Europe there's still not much interest in just getting that skills. And more precisely and related with the questions, maybe is that you know, in Europe they are just trying to promote this digital autonomy. They are just working on initiatives like IIX and with Cloud Federation on all these things, because they would like just to have their European values just in cloud computing. And this is good. There is a lot of initiatives. There's a lot of people just realizing that there's a lot of opportunities here in Europe. But on the other side, I got the feeling that Europe is not, or European citizens are not pretty much interested in that. And I wonder why. I mean, I don't know if any one of you can just just let me know what is your opinion on that.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this, but I really want to know Massimiliano's opinion on this too, because from in Enrique, you can speak to this as well. Where we live in Spain, the majority of people working in computer science, I would say the majority, are either maybe starting to work with cloud, and many of them not even. I don't have exact numbers on this, so don't quote me on this because I could be completely wrong, and hopefully I am. But what I would say is that the traditional sort of role of a developer, analyst, whatever we want to call it, is still not very well paid, not very well appreciated, and not with very advanced technologies, which is generally why, at least in the area where we live, the few companies that are working with advanced technologies are generally quite full. You know, like they don't have significant hiring problems, and will frequently get their employees from, or, you know, find new employees from companies that, like I said, are still using technologies from, even in some cases, the early 2000s, things of that nature. I can only speak to that though here, and I can't say, you know, nationally, if you look at the rest of Spain, how that would be. So I would kind of turn that over to you, Massimiliano. I'd like to know, like, how you see that challenge. Is that, do the majority of companies that we see in Europe, are they really pushing for this, or are they still kind of stuck with what might be comfortable and technologies that aren't so advanced or based on cloud? I'm really curious.
Yeah, I mean, we, you know, I speak to many companies on a daily basis. What I found is that most of them are literally in a cloud migration process. So they have lots of people that are very, very skilled when it comes to on-prem, but then they find themselves that, you know, the companies find themselves in a place where they are losing revenue, they're losing, they're not where they would like to be. And they need actually to invest money and time to upskill people, because there are not enough people out of the door to take those jobs. In terms of security, I mean, I know that Europe, you know, there is a plan to basically kind of build a cloud structure that would not rely so much on the public names, public vendors mentioned here. I don't know much about that, to be honest. But I know that, you know, obviously security is a very, very pressing issue. And we get more and more requests for security content, certifications, courses. And we, you know, we are building more and more of that. We already have something that I just shared here in the chat, but you will see more and more of that in the coming months, because, I mean, this is the request that we are getting. So this is what we are going to bring onto the platform.
But it's also true that when you talk to the different stakeholders, they say, okay, we will hire people and then we'll train it ourselves. Okay, so that's if they don't have the skills, we'll do it from them.
Yeah.
However, when they ask go for this certification, it's they go a little bit to what you are saying. I mean, they want to get certification from Amazon. They want to get certification from Microsoft. They want to get, but they don't have any certification for anything in Europe because we don't have a big cloud computing company or stakeholder in Europe like the ones that offer in Asia or in the States. So if someone would like just to get certificate in something which is, let's say, a little bit European, right? And then to show the companies that, okay, I have the certification, this is for this one. Have you already just seen that there is something coming out there, or is it still nothing? There is the only alternatives are the ones that are currently there.
Is that a question for?
Oh, it's a question for anyone. I mean,
I think okay, because this is something also that Massimiliano knows a lot more than I do, because of dealing so much with certifications. Like what we say, is it the carrot or the stick? Like do I provide incentives or do I kind of push you into this? And sometimes it can be both. And we see that with the CNCF, because there are certifications for certified Kubernetes administrator, certified Kubernetes developer, certified Kubernetes security specialist, and now there's a lower level one, or one that's more beginner level, which is Kubernetes Cloud Native Associate. Anyway, don't try to say any of these things 10 times fast. But I wish they could make it simpler. But the point is that it's good to have those things because it gives you structure, it puts everything together. A lot of these things you could study on your own, but let's face it, time is limited and makes it simpler. The thing is, though, is that what really gives value to these things is when organizations start saying, we will favor candidates that have, these kind of certifications. In the security world, those things are, it's either you have it or you don't. And, when it comes to, ISO or, things like that, like there are certain things that are just industry standards that have to be respected. Yeah. For other things, for, systems administrators or people working in infrastructure, it is there, it can be there, but I think sometimes in those cases, it's more about personal growth than it is necessarily a company saying, in order to have this, you need to have that. In order to work here, you absolutely have to have that. So I think that I do have the logic behind having a European certification makes sense. How do you disseminate that and get universities to buy into it, as well as organizations in their digital transformation strategy? Those are curious points. And I'd like to hear Massimiliano's opinion.
Okay, Max.
Yeah, I mean, the certifications, I think they are like a little bit like, the cherry on the cake, as you were saying. When we talk with the companies, they say, I mean, there are several different companies, different verticals. For example, for management consulting companies, certification, it's a mantra for them because they're basically selling professional services. For other companies, certification, just as you were saying, gives structure to the people that are upskilling themselves. And other verticals like the banking sector, well, certification and security, I mean, it's not enough to have, it's a must. So that's what I can report, from my activities, my calls with the companies. But I think, we're going to see lots of novelties coming down the pipeline when it comes to certifications. So I can speak for our team. We have about 50 people that work tirelessly to upload new content and refresh, update the content that we have. And I saw their pipeline and certifications and security. It's definitely also a priority. So I can bring you that. That's my 2 cents here about that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Enrique. We should also try to wrap up quickly. Maybe just one last question.
Well,
quickly.
we have Abhijit. He was trying just to say something, but we haven't given him the time. Or let's just invite him to share his opinion, and we will wrap up. Okay.
I think Abhijit, wait a second. He's trying to speak something. Are you?
He's mute probably. Abhijit?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Yeah,
Quickly.
I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So the case with India and the Asian markets is that when we had computers, they couldn't take the commercial workload. So we automatically had to shift to cloud. But with European infrastructure, I think those computers could deal with the load. And most likely that was the reason why they stuck to on-prem rather than migrating to the cloud. Mm-hmm. So once we hit that kind of a roadblock, I mean, once the European markets hit the roadblock, there'll be a rapid adoption to the cloud then. A roadblock where on-prem cannot handle the requests and balances.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I agree. that's
thank you, Abhijit. That was that's also very interesting to know from the different perspectives of different market. I mean, it's a completely different scale, Europe and India, and these different markets. So Enrique, do you have any more questions or?
No, I just really like just to appreciate. I mean, probably we can stay here just discussing for 1 more hour. At least I'm enjoying the discussion so far. But I think it's time for the wrap up. So that maybe Arita, you'll have the final word. And thank you
so much. Yes, thank you, Enrique. Thank you, Massimiliano and Bart.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much, Abhijit. Thank you, everybody. For the very insightful presentations and your inputs. And I would like to thank the audience also, participants. Thank you very much for joining us. Please stay tuned. I have already mentioned in the chat our channels. And please stay tuned to our channels for the next event. So this was the first one of this Cloud Computing Skill Development in Europe series, webinar series. There are 5 more coming up. And apart from that, there are also several events from the Horizon Cloud community. So in the next couple of months, so please stay tuned to our channels and hear from us and join us next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
everyone, have a great day.
Bye.